I'm going to start on criteria. I'll just go straight down case, but I'm not going to. I'm going to put like the advantages on the bottom, and then I'm going to go off case. So I'll start with hasty generalization. No, I'm going to start tech. I'm sorry, because that makes more sense criteria-wise. Absent this brand new story that he's giving you and this new application that he's giving you in the last speech about the causal links and the impacts, and not explaining and dropping the cards which are conceded out of the window, this is a crush. There's no choice. If they are dropping cards and conceding them that indicate at the time of inquiry that you would have to make the determination of quality of life there, it is implicit, and that is the extension George is making, that at that point is where the impact debate would come down. Causal link or not, that is when they would have to establish it. Off the first, they're talking about the right to interpret there's limits to. I just want you to extend in-round abuses only. I also want you to extend that this is an absolute contradiction to hasty G. When they're arguing that there would be a limiting standard of definition, there would have to be a specificity of a definition. We'd have to limit our case down, and then they're arguing the whole resolution you would have to justify. This is a contradiction. We are arguing that you would drop them on this level, and this is the First Amendment voter. Star that, label it number one, voting issue. Quality of life. They're indicating that this would be fine, but you'd have to prove the causal link, and we'll pursue the impact. But I'm indicating down below that, first of all, it is at the time of inquiry. Second of all, I'm indicating that George is arguing extensively in the 1 AR, at least spending 20 seconds, how this would move the absolute definition cold. That it would say if you perceive a north-south war, then you would get the link. No, the cards say when you're evaluating a situation at that time of inquiry, you have to determine whether that is a cause of a degradation of life. And considering she's conceding these cards, conceding all three cards in the 1 AR, I really don't think there's a bit of legitimacy for him to get back up here and argue that this is a cross-application and to get in, to try to tell you the assumptions behind our evidence. On case, contention 2. He says this would destroy parametrics, and parametrics is not grammar-based, and this is a mass down. Now, this is hilarious, and it's a brand new application, but I'll be handling this more on hasty generalization. Furthermore, he says clash is your standard. But at this point, we're arguing that if clash is enough, then all we would have to show you is a sufficient ground on case. Please extend the argument that George makes that says any discourse is enough, and that is the instrumental value to discourse. It is case. And when they're conceding arguments on case, and if you do find that there's ground on case, i.e. evidentiary burden standards, then that is enough. Now that's what I want to extend. First of all, this is the big picture. We have the evidentiary burden standard. We're arguing that when you cannot determine it from a third-person subjective, which all the evidence in the round concedes, then you have to look at it from a first person. Does this person perceive that? Secondly, you have an evidentiary burden to show that that person perceives it. They're exactly right. When Tracy's telling you that you can't make the determination for a person whether or not their quality of life is destroyed, we are conceding that. We're saying the evidence, within the context of the evidence, would have to say, this person's quality of life is degraded. And at that point, he's getting up here and saying, well, they perceive this loss from health. I mean, these might be intuitive answers, but he's not meeting the evidentiary burden, which George and I are telling you, which our evidence says, yes, these people perceive their quality of life. That's the Garrow card, the first card against you. They also say they're annoyed. It says 98% dislike and 78% are pissed off when they receive these calls. We are pulling the evidentiary burden in this round. There's nothing that they're reading. Hasty generalization. A lot of contradictions. I don't know what their story is by the 2 and R. I'm trying to listen. I'm confused. He says grammar is not important. If grammar is not important, then their whole case, then their whole position falls. Because they're arguing two terms. They're saying it's a mass noun, and you can't pluralize it. These are grammatically based arguments, saying if we did this, we would destroy the grammatical nature of the sentence. If they're conceding grammar, then the only thing they have to fall back on is, well, we need it for clash. But when we're telling you that it destroys clash at the bottom, the last thing that George is reading, or the last answer that he's making on Horace, all it says is, well, parametrics destroy clash. No, we're arguing to destroy clash when you cut the entire debate off at a procedural level. When you say, no, I'm not even going to look to see if there's clash because you don't meet all of advertising. This argument uniquely destroys clash. And if that's your only standard, then we're getting an absolute turn. Furthermore, we're showing you that any discourse on case would be enough for clash, right? So if they're conceding the grammar burdens, then the round is over. They have no justification, no substantive justification for why Horace is good. Secondly, if they're not conceding the grammar burdens and they're saying they're important, then we're making an excellent argument down in the 2AC, which is being conceded, arguing that that serves as an adjective in the resolution, not as a conjunction, that the actual colon in the resolution serves as a conjunction, and they're not coming to grips with that. The argument is wrongly handled in the 1 AR, and all he's doing is extending the arguments. The argument is that serves as an adjective, which is grammatically correct. And at that level, you have a grammatically correct interpretation. Now looking at the meat of this argument, he says you can look at the whole and that it's better. That's only arguing you can do both. Our evidence is superior. The truth is tested in a superior fashion when you do it on a case-by-case basis. So if we know it can be done at both levels, certainly the clash standard is fulfilled, right? We're arguing it doesn't destroy clash if you look at it on an individual case basis, and they're not conceding that it does. They're just saying, well, you could do both. But it's all wishy-washy. There's no evidence here. Ted. First of all, they're dropping the cards that indicate we are not a sufficient condition to critique this. We're critiquing we're not a sufficient condition for accidents. Secondly, we are arguing the turn, that we streamline this, that now we make these people more productive. Now they're not having the excess fat of calling that 98% of Americans which don't buy the products, which are annoyed, now they have the luxury of being able to call the people who do buy the products and taking the other advertising money in their budget and distribute it to more efficient forms of advertising. That is the argument. It's not something that needs to be carded because we're arguing that our advocacy is to increase advertising. There in no way do we inhibit telemarketing. This is an assertive claim. Furthermore, we're arguing on the bottom that people don't perceive this. Their evidence would have to have a first-person subjective scenario, and they're arguing for you that people perceive health. There's no argument here as that people perceive telemarketing at the time of inquiry to decrease their health. At the time of inquiry, they are pretty annoyed. I am.